stop all head speed going forward. I was doing 1 or 2 knots. But with the mainsail up, I could get good speed, 4 or 5 knots, but I had to fall off, and that was putting me right into the island. And I tried tweaking over and over, just trying to get it just a couple more degrees up into the wind. It just didn't work. So I gave in to the inevitable, and I tacked. And that's a sensible thing to do, is I tacked. The problem is when you tack across the wind in a sailboat, you do that for 90 degrees. So I tacked, and now I'm heading 90 degrees the other direction, 90 degrees away from where I want to be going. So I'll do that for an hour or so, an hour and a half, an hour and 15 minutes. And then I'll turn back, I'll clear the island safely, and we'll play it by ear after that. So it's no big deal. That's part of sailing. It's just that this always happens at 2 o'clock in the morning. It's pouring rain. The waves are coming over the top of the boat. I'll tell you what, at least in my case, writing Azores in my logbook is an earned privilege. It's not a given gift. Anyway, that's the fun of it. That's the excitement of it. Hopefully, the rest of the evening will be uneventful. It's 4:47 in the morning. Still pitch black outside. I lost my engine. What is not uncommon to happen is that there's microorganisms that grow in diesel fuel tanks, and when the weather's really rough, that gets stirred up and it goes in through the fuel filter and blocks the fuel filters. And so the motor just slowly, it sounded like it was struggling, and then finally it just stopped. I checked all the obvious things. There's no leaks. The oil level's good. The sea strainer had a film of algae on it that was surprisingly thick, because I had recently cleaned it. But so I cleaned that up, and the engine actually restarted and ran for about 40 seconds, and then it shut down again. So the first thing to do was I only had the mainsail up, and the mainsail alone, that's like being hove to, and I was drifting back toward that island. It's several miles away, but that was a big concern. So the first thing to do is say, forget the engine, get sailing again. And as you can imagine, there's a full gale outside. I don't know what happened. The anemometer that gives me the airspeed indicator doesn't work, but it must be 35 knots out there. And so I had to get the main was already reefed twice. I put the Genoa out, and I was so relieved, because immediately I got control of the boat. Immediately I turned away from the island and just headed due west. New York, here I come. And but the problem was that there was a little too much sail with the Genoa, and it kept rounding up very violently. I couldn't move at all. It was the boat was at 35, 40 degrees angle of heel. So anyway, it took, everything takes twice as long in high winds. You can probably hear it. Everything's buffeting around. And in the meantime, I decided to put 40 liters of clean gas into the fuel tank as well. So I did that. So I'm just going to rest up just a bit here. Then I'm going to try to change the primary fuel filter and secondary fuel filter, or at least the secondary fuel filter, in a pitching, heaving sea. Try to do that without getting sick from the diesel fuel films. So, no danger at all. I'm headed towards safety. I can just ride this thing out, and when the weather gets nice, turn around and come back in and meet them with a towboat right at the mouth of the marina in a day or two. But I'd like to get this resolved today. Oof. Are we having fun? Okay, well, I changed the secondary rather, fuel filter. Those are just diapers I put there to absorb the diesel as it spills out. I don't know if I'm going to change. I might try to just start the engine again. It didn't look all that dirty, frankly, the filter, but I did notice with some water in it. There was a bit of water, you know, it's all shaken up. I mean, there's a hell of a storm going on right outside here. So we'll see what it was. I might take a little break here and then try to start the engine again. I just wanted to give an idea of the storm that's outside. It's raging, it's pelting down rain. Waves are crashing. You can hear the hell of the noise that's going on. And another boat has declared a Mayday. So unfortunately I can only hear one half of that conversation. The other half is with someone Portuguese speaking English not very well. So well, I'm in no position to help anyone anyway. So right now I think they're stabilized. I'm going to try to ease the sails just a little bit more. That's the last thing I need is to have something break now, because I'm dependent on my sails to get me home. So I'll try to take a little bit of the load off the sails. I'm well clear of land now, so okay on that situation. And I think I'm going to hold off on changing the other fuel filter and trying to restart the engine again. This fuel tank is so shook up with this rocking and rolling that I'm sure if it's some water contamination that's been there a long time, it's well shaken up now. So I think I'll just sit that out for a while. It sounds like still birds all flying around. We're really rocking and rolling here. Big 3-meter waves. I'd say the wind speed is about 30-35 knots right now. I've got the sails reefed as much as I can. We're advancing at about 4 knots in a good safe direction up to the actually down to the southwest, so that's fine. I'm very comfortable. You're not going to believe it, but I'm going to take a nap. There's really nothing to do, so I'm going to take a nap because I don't want to try to restart the engine in this. And I think the best thing to do is wait it out, even if it's 24 or 48 hours. The only other thing I want to try to do is conserve. Whoa! That's when a wave comes crashing over the spray hood. The only other thing I want to try to do is conserve as much electricity as I can. So I've turned off everything non-essential, and including the refrigerator, because I want to keep that electricity for the autopilot. The autopilot really works hard in weather like this, so I'm not sure that my fuel cell will be able to keep up with its needs. So I'm turning everything off so I can save, whoa, that was a big one, save electricity for the autopilot and for the radio, for when I eventually get near a port, so that I can call them as I arrive at the mount to the marina and say, send out a Zodiac and escort me to a pier. I'm only 33 miles away, 33 miles away from my destination. I was going to be there in 5 hours. There you go. Well, I got about an hour's rest, 1 hour much needed sleep. But if anything, the wind has picked up and the gale has worsened. It's really howling out there. The boat is behaving very well, keeping me pointed into the wind. I'm just, the sails are taking such a beating. I'm a bit concerned. Something might pop. I might try to reef in the Genoa just a little bit more. I'm hardly moving at all. As you can see, it's pretty ugly. I'll wait till things calm down again before trying to turn on the engine. I just have a sliver of the Genoa out and a big double reef in the mainsail, but completely the sheet is completely sheeted out, so that we're fore-reaching very nicely. Just we round up and fall off, round up and fall off, round up and fall, and heading into the waves at about a 40-degree angle. I just think it's perfect. It's very comfortable. My only concern is that something breaks. And I was looking, and there's a plastic protective device that goes around one of the shroud lines, and the plastic had a cover thing on it to prevent chafe. That's what it was for, to prevent chafe. And that plastic cover thing disappeared. It's not there any longer. So there's a sharp edge there, and guess where the sheet to the Genoa was sitting? Right on that. And so the sheet to the Genoa is cut halfway through. I put a bunch of tape around it. I went forward. Not very much fun in this weather, but I went forward, put a bunch of tape on it, some tape around the Genoa as well. And I moved the fair lead so that the Genoa sheet now is touching in a different place. I expect that Genoa sheet though to part sooner or later. When it does, since the Genoa is furled 3/4 of the way in, I'll just furl it all the way in, and then take the other sheet, the other Genoa sheet, and just bring it across to the other side. And then when things calm down, I'll re-rig a new Genoa. So I'm not too worried about that. It's good to see. Good that I saw. It's nice that this is occurring now in the daytime, whereas it all started. It was pitch black, and that wasn't very comforting. So I think I'm heading to the west-northwest at about 1.5 to 2 knots, and the closest dangerous land is 60 miles away. In that way, it's another island of the Azores, so it's 60 miles away. So I'm good for another 40 hours, and I'm prepared to just ride this out, just sit here like this and ride it out for all that time. And when things calm down again, turn back around and heading for Horta. So that's the latest status update. Morale is fine, no problems. Well, no one said it better than Gordon Lightfoot. Does anyone know where the love of God goes when the waves turn the minutes to hours? It does go by very slowly, and I kept, every time there's a little hint of, oh, maybe it's calming down now. Maybe that's it. Maybe that was frontal passage. Wishful thinking. I'm still in the midst of it. So let's hope that all passes. It doesn't get any more severe than it is now. Right now it's just a wild ride and noisy, but I don't consider it dangerous. Especially everything's under control for reaching into the waves. Everything is it's not at all dangerous. I don't want it to get any worse though. Okay. Well, I'm quite pleased with myself. The wind just seems to keep growing stronger and stronger. The waves taller and taller. So I was just afraid I was over canvassed. So I went to the mast. I have automatic first and second reef. I don't have an automatic third reef. It's not in. That wasn't installed. So I just went to the mast, chained in, of course, and I tied in a third reef. And then I came back to the boom, swinging around, still tied on, of course, and I tied the third reef onto the boom as well. So I've greatly reduced the sail volume. Unfortunately, just a little bit too late, I think, on the mainsail. You can see the trailing edge of the mainsail. That seam has ripped. I don't know if that's a fatal flaw or if that was just to give it some form. I'll find out really quickly here. It would be really nice if the wind would die down. Hello, Phantom shipmates. Here's an update. I've now been in the Gale for a full 12 hours, and it might be showing some, I'm sure this is a sucker punch, but some ever slightest signs that maybe it's easing up just a bit. Well, the wind is probably still well over 30. I have just a feeling that it seems to be easing up. But it did that once or twice earlier, only to come back more ferocious than ever. So what I decided, I was very tempted a few hours ago, was to just tack across the wind. I'm on a heading of 270 due west, tack across the wind to 180, and that was directly to Horta. That would take me directly to Horta. I decided not to do that because I was a little nervous with the angle that I'd be presenting to the waves, kind of a quartering from the rear, and I'd rather face them, take them on the bow. I'm very comfortable the way we are right now. And secondly, I was just afraid I'd get to Horta. You're in between several islands, narrow maneuvering. It's not that narrow, but narrower. I mean, it's not the wide open ocean. And who knows what could happen now if the engine doesn't start. And I haven't even touched the engine. As you can imagine, the engine has been irrelevant in these conditions. So I'm going to continue this course of 270. Ironically, because I put the third reef in and the sails are now, the two sails are pretty closely balanced, I'm actually going faster than I was before. When the sails were unbalanced, I was rounding up into the wind and then falling off, rounding up into the wind and then falling off. Now that sails are balanced, I'm doing 3 or 4 knots. So I'm actually going to be pretty close to those remote islands in the morning if I could do this all night long. I looked at the book on the guidebook on those ports, and they have no services whatsoever. The marinas are very small and difficult to get into and out of, and no, I'll just turn around. If the storm lets up, I'll just turn around and do the 60 miles back and back to Horta. So that's what my strategy is, wait it out. And when the weather calms a bit, I changed the secondary fuel filter, but as I said, I didn't find any black crud that I thought would be jamming it. I saw there was definitely some water in there, but no crud. So I'm not so sure I'm going to change the primary fuel filter that's mounted on the engine. I'll probably leave that, and when things calm down, just try to start the engine again and see if it works. And if it was water, I may bleed the line again, and then just try to start the engine. And if that doesn't work, then I'll change that filter as well. I don't like changing it at sea because it is so messy, and you get diesel absolutely everywhere. The cabin smells a bit like diesel, and not pleasant. So what I intend to do now, because I need to conserve electricity, because the autopilot needs all the electricity it can get for tonight. So what I'm going to do is cook up the last steak that I have and the last bit of fresh meat, cook that up and have that for dinner, and then just stand by, ready to spring into action if anything happens during the evening, that requires some immediate attention. So hopefully nothing to report except in the middle of the night the wind completely died off and I reversed course and headed back to Horta. So that would be the ideal situation. Well, this is it, the final stretch. After sitting around for a whole day in 40-knot wind, where there's no way I was going to try to enter without an engine, this morning it started to let up. So it's let up a little bit. It's more like 30 knots than 40. But I'm on my final leg into Horta, which is that point there. You can see it's still very windy. So what I intend to do is when I get a bit closer, I'm still about 6 miles away, 6 nautical miles away. When I get a bit closer, I'll call them on the radio and say I've lost my engine, and when I get somewhere close, I hope they can send out a Zodiac or something to tie up alongside of me and tow me in. It's common practice, it's not a big deal. Let's just hope they're set up for it and it's windy and the waves are high, and that makes all of this a bit more complicated than normal. So, wish me luck. Well, I forgot to turn the camera on. I just called the marina on the radio, and I told them I was 7 miles out, but that I'd be unable to start my engine, and I requested if they had a vessel available to come and meet me somewhere close to the marina for the final escort in, and that I would give them a call when I get 2 to 3 miles away. And they said, oh, no problem at all, we're ready for that. Give us a call when you get closer. Wow, that's what I like to hear. Thank you very much, Horta. And so this is it. Proof positive that Isabel has now visited the Mecca of sailors all around the world. That is Horta in the Azores. That's because people cross here when they're doing their transatlantics, and it's got this reputation. Everybody knows it, everyone's been here. And there's a very famous cafe right over there called Cafe Sport that was run by a man named Peter, who everyone called Peter, but his real name was Jose. But the place is famous for it. And you can see on the ground here, every boat that comes through is supposed to paint their little emblem or logo or name of their crew for the experience. And I can understand these kind of passages are quite dramatic, and I don't want to say life-changing, but you know, they're powerful moments in one's lifetime. And that was, you know, I shared some of it with you. I'll try to put this all together in a nice film and edit out the parts that are just not too interesting, and maybe you'll learn something, maybe I'll learn something, and well, I know I'll learn something, but I hope you find it interesting. Anyway, so here we are in Horta des Azores. I'm going to stay here for 15 days and then move on to another famous port in the Azores called Punta Delgada, which is not too far away. It's only 150 miles, a one-day trip. I forgot to say, how did it all end up when I came in? I tried I changed the filter on my both filters, oil and diesel fuel filters on the engine, and it would not start. And I noticed when I tried to prime it, and that I could not. So I think that the line is blocked somewhere. And so they met me right at the entrance of the harbor, right over there, with a little boat with lots of fenders on it, and they towed me in these last 300 or 400 yards, put me up right against the side here. And now the irony, one of my check-in, I had to see customs and immigration and port authority and the capitanerie, and then I had to go to the police station because I actually can't leave until I prove that I fixed the problem. So it's a good thing I'm not in a hurry to go anywhere. No, I'll find a mechanic to come and purge the line. I'm sure that's what it was.